This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, we're kicking off hour 2 of Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network. Thanks for hanging out with us. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. If you missed any of the first hour of the program, we had a deep dive into this Thursday night football clash in the NFC East. Cowboys, Eagles going head-to-head, all of that line movement. You missed any of it, you want to catch up, download Money Moves podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. Plenty more NFL. We're going to go through the board as much as possible here this hour. Jeff Erickson, also of Rotowire and Prop Points, going to join us, give us some of his prop angles for the weekend, and we'll have best bets at the end of the hour with a little college football we're going to throw in there. Because we've gone so hard on Thursday Night Football, I want to jump ahead to Friday and Brazil coming up. Chiefs-Chargers going head-to-head, 3-point spread there, total 46.5. For the Chiefs, no Rashee Rice, we know, to start the season, missing the first 6 games with a suspension. We talked yesterday about the Jim Harbaugh 5-0 as a head coach in season openers, but also how good Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have been in the month of September and starting off season. So where does your immediate gut go when it comes to this spread and total?
Where it's been this whole time. Give me the Chiefs. I think it's somewhat cheap, as discussed with our wonderful producer, Brian Ortega. On Fridays, we'll have a regular segment we call our look at the market ratings, and we'll see in that exercise with a number like this how high the Chargers rate according to the market, and I just don't think that is the case, especially when you talk about the issues at the offensive line with Slater being out. I'm not really buying this, and I don't know, man. I don't know how you feel about it. Is Najee Harris is he an addition, or a positive one, I should say? I don't know what's going on with that backfield behind your boy to win Rookie of the Year. I just don't know what's going to happen here. And I think that we go into this season generally with the thoughts of this Chargers team being excellent, above average defensively. I think when you look back, they played a lot of subpar offenses a season ago. I think that there's something here where the market's somewhat ignoring some of the issues the Chargers have when it comes to their roster at wide receiver and offensive line, and not really looking at how good this Chiefs team could be defensively. I think the Chiefs can actually be one of those top 10, top 5, top units when you're looking at how strong they can be in that area. I think that this is just one where the market's a little too high on the Chargers. So, as we talked about, I'm going to hold out hope, see if I get 2.5 again. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I still think 3 is playable. I think the Chiefs can get in here, win, and cover.
So it's interesting. I lean Chiefs on the 3, but I do have the Chargers in a teaser. And I feel like this is going to be one of those close games between 2 good teams. And the Chiefs did find themselves on the right end of so many one-score games last year that I give them that edge in the immediate thought. But if this is a closer game, getting that wiggle room, bringing the 3 up to 9, I don't hate that. Look at the 2 results from last year. Chiefs 17-10, 19-17. If Omarion Hampton is what I think he is, if Ladd McConkey continues to deliver, can Quentin Johnson catch a pass? I think that'll be significant for this group. And yeah, defensively, some questions, but the way that Jim Harbaugh coaches up teams and run the ball, stop the run, I feel like this could come together nicely, at least with the +9. I lean Chiefs again in a close game. I feel like I'll give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt, but if I think this is something that can be decided by a touchdown, why wouldn't I take the 9?
I also think we should note, I think we discussed this yesterday, the other day. I was talking about this with somebody, but the field conditions are obviously a big question. Last year in Brazil, it was all over the place. Yep. Generally the grass-type fields tend to lend more towards some slippage, sliding, all those sort of things. Maybe that gets you a little bit over the total here with the lack of leverage for some of these pass rushers, some defensive backs slipping in coverage as well. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition, but that to me is going to be obviously very impactful. Now, who it impacts is also going to be the other deal, but I think this is one for Kansas City. I don't really have a feel for the total, but numbers-wise, by my own measure, I thought this was cheap for KC.
Okay, Lions-Packers, another big game. Green Bay laying 2.5 at Lambeau, total 47.5. I liked listening to Dan Campbell on the podium this week saying, and then on the 3rd day, God made, or was it the 8th day, whatever it was, but saying God made Lambeau and how cool it is to have the opportunity to go play there. They have had a lot of success in this rivalry as well. Big questions for Detroit. On the offensive line, they don't have Ben Johnson. Aaron Glenn's not there anymore. So what does it look like with 2 new coordinators, handful of new assistants? But again, getting 2.5, total 47.5.
So sidewise, I've cooled a little bit here in that I thought, and I still do think, everything being equal, let's say we're at like week 8 of the NFL season. Guys have been implemented, and you're talking about healthy rosters. Even with the addition of Micah Parsons, I would still say that Detroit is at the worst equals with the Green Bay Packers, maybe slightly better. But the reason why I've cooled is I feel like I should give this offense more time. Ben Johnson is not there anymore. The interior of the offensive line is a question for Detroit, and I don't know what that looks like for Green Bay. And I thought there was a great point brought up in listening to all the media that's out there. It's what the Packers are going to do with Micah Parsons, what I find the most interesting if and when he plays in this game. Do you just put him in his usual spot, lining up against a right tackle, and let him go? Or do you try to test out some of the theories of, hey, you know who's got a brand new center? The Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. What if we put Micah Parsons there? What if they move him around? What if they try different things? And I have been one that has questioned whether or not Dan Campbell is the Ed Orgeron of the NFL, where you lose your 2 key coordinators and everything kind of falls apart from a result standpoint. I just want to see this more from Detroit than anything else. So as I was thinking about it, looking at the way that I rate these teams personally, I do think Detroit is still slightly better, but I still think I should probably see what that is before I act on what it is. So I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines outside of maybe some in-game stuff for watching this on a Sunday, but I've definitely cooled on, hey, it's going to be Detroit for me or pass. I'll sit back and wait and see what it is.
Worth noting here at Circa and some other books, we are at 2. 56% of the bets coming in, but 79% of the handle at Circa on the Detroit Lions. And a good reminder, up at vsin.com each and every day, we have those betting splits available for both Circa and DraftKings. So you get the professional, sharp better, big wager angle here at Circa, but that also DraftKings, which reflects the broader public market. vsin.com/subscribe. You can get in for just $9.99 right now. And on the Parsons front of that game, by the way, the Packers quotes have been certainly hopeful that he's going to be available, but that back issue apparently is real. Potential for an epidural we've seen. So how much does he play is definitely going to be a conversation as well, getting used to the scheme and from a health standpoint.
Or, I mean, is that one of those where are we talking less impactful second half for him? Epidural helps you out initially, and then all of a sudden you get in that second half, you start to feel it still a little bit more. It starts to wear off a bit. I don't know. But, again, as we talked about with Stafford, epidural is just a pain masker. It is not something that helps with the rehab and the healing.
Okay, 49ers Seahawks. This is a game obviously near and dear to my heart. The San Francisco 49ers last year ranked 2nd in the NFL for games missed by injured players. It was brutal. Before the Seahawks won at San Francisco last season, though, they had reeled off 6 straight in this rivalry. There are some questions clearly at wide receiver. Good to note, Juwan Jennings did get his deal tweaked for this year, so $3 million coming his way in incentives. And we were texting about this yesterday. I do like that they made it based on what you're going to do, not what you did for me lately kind of a thing, especially after they had just redone his deal. But with all of the injuries that are in that wide receiver room, to know you have Juwan Jennings out there and he's going to be a little happier with a pep in his step that he does have a new reworked deal for him. Ricky Pearsall also expected to take a step forward against a Seahawks team that there are some questions. I think the defense is going to be good. But what do we get from Sam Darnold on the other side and company as he steps in?
So what do you like? You're the 49ers whisperer. I need to know.
Well, I feel like with Seattle at home and a good defense, this could be a close game as San Francisco's trying to figure out and work out some kinks on offense, but I don't want to bet against a team that I'm very clearly rooting for. So I'm staying off of that game, I've decided.
Kind of like it under. I think that's where we've gone, right, with the number 2. You could see this being a somewhat ugly game between the 2 division rivals that know each other to a certain extent, but also are showing some new stuff. The more I've looked at Seattle, the more I am intrigued by this team. And as I have asked, even though there's no real answer until we get the result, what if last year Sam Darnold shows up and not the last 2 games? That's a dude who can run an offense. I don't think he is on par with some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But if that's the case, and if some of these continuity issues at wide receiver pop up and Brock Purdy's not really on the same page with some of these dudes outside of George Kittle, then all of a sudden you're looking at a game which I think can get pretty mucked up and be low scoring between these two. So I'd be curious to see how low it really gets. I'm terrible at math on the fly. 23-17, that still takes you under, right?
Yes. Also, Seattle 3-1 to the under the past 4 season openers, if that matters to you. I know we do that meaningful or meaningless. It doesn't matter.
What is it again?
It's just worth noting. 3-1 to the under the last 4 season openers.
So actually, up to that point, Brian M checked in and said, Ravens 1-2 in week 1 road games the last 4 years.
Okay, well, let's go to that this last couple minutes then, because you are higher on the Ravens in this spot, despite it being at Orchard Park.
I'm in. Let's do it. The more I've thought about this and evaluated this, the more I'm like, you know what? We should just be brave enough to say it. The Ravens are the best team in the AFC. I know it's a very brave thing for me to say in today's day and age, but it looks like Jair Alexander's going to play, so we know that. Maybe he won't play, 14 games. So I'm hoping that's the case. This team's this Ravens roster is great across the board. They are very good. I think they are better than Buffalo. So I think it makes sense that, when it was earlier, Buffalo -1.5, indicating that these two teams are equals to one another. I don't believe that's the case. I think what Baltimore does offensively, they can execute at a high level against Buffalo's defense. They're going to be able to run the ball here. I think these things put together indicate that Baltimore is going to be able to come out after a rough end to the year, as we all remember, and be able to get this done. I think one, by my measure, was cheap.
Out for revenge against this team, too.
Yes,
There's
indeed.
that narrative. You mentioned the rough end. It's one of those things, too, that's interesting. You know how Buffalo has had the edge over Kansas City in the regular season, but not the playoffs. It's kind of the reverse of that with Buffalo and the Ravens, where Lamar Jackson has had the edge against Buffalo in the regular season. Then, of course, we know how last season ended. So It's interesting how some of these things flip.
I don't. This is what I didn't want to come in today. That's what I'm telling you.
What?
At Front Wraps asks if I'm using a low pressure shower head. See, what's going on? It's just it's humid out here today. What can I say?
I like your hair today. I
very
like
long.
that we're changing it up a little bit.
It's very long. It's getting long.
I think it's good. I think you're at a healthy length right now. Maybe we could trim the sides so that it's more like length up top. But I like the little messy look right now versus the full clean cut thing. I think it's working for you.
Take that, Front Wraps. How about that?
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a timeout. More NFL after the break, though. That's Sunday Night Football. What are our thoughts on Monday Night Vikings-Bears coming up?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You think you're more than an average Joe? I can't even get through it. Hey, if you think you're more than an average Joe when it comes to football betting, prove it. VSiN Average Joe contest sponsored by Edge Boost. Each week, make 7 picks, sides or total in NFL or college, free to play, and the highest score every week wins a $500 Edge Boost deposit. If you already have an Edge Boost account, that prize jumps up to $1,000. Don't miss the big quarterly prizes. Airfare for 2 to Las Vegas, a 2-night stay at Circa Resort and Casino, an in-studio guest appearance on a VSiN show, and an autographed 8x10 headshot of Mitch Moss and Paul Howard. You can enter anytime during the season at vsin.com/Joe.
Would you just look at it? Would you look at that? Did you just volunteer them for the signed headshot, by the way?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was part of it.
I'm more proud of myself that I got the measurements correct off the top of the dome.
Wow.
8x10 is not very big, but still autographed by Paul Howard and Mitch. It's very good.
Very impressive. Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Last segment, we were going through all of the primetime standalone games that are coming up in week 1 of the NFL. And next Monday, we'll have ample time to go through Monday Night Football. But I did want to touch on this Vikings-Bears matchup at least a little bit here because the total is on the move from 44.5 down to 43.5. I bet under 44 yesterday. I think there will be good opportunities potentially for in-game unders too, depending on how the opening game scripts go for these two teams. But J.J. McCarthy making his first start Monday Night Football at Soldier Field, coming off of an injury. Your left tackle also coming off of a major knee injury. Caleb Williams, first game with Ben Johnson. So how do you see things?
Wake me up on Monday. No, I think Chicago's a teaser leg. I think that is really the only thing that I feel strongly about. I will say, to go to the point of, you know what, I'm just going to say it. I think the Bears can be good. I believe in Ben Johnson. I believe that everybody is a fool if you're going to give up. And not just in Caleb Williams, just any dude after 1 year at any single position. I think there's room for growth and improvement, especially in a system like this with a play caller like that. So I would tend to lean toward Chicago being more live than what the market is giving them. But for me, the massive unknown at quarterback, which is J.J. McCarthy, and the guy who is better than Ben Johnson, I think, because we have a larger sample size, the QB whisperer, Kevin O'Connell, what he's been able to do with some of these guys, that gives me pause of, you know what, low total, teasable number. Let me just get this up to 7.5, and we'll use it as a leg with the Broncos and just sit back and see what this is going to do. Because this is perfect for you, right? Total 43.5, sitting at 1.5. Some spots it looks like offshore getting to 2, so you can get that up to 8 if you will. But to me, that is the most confident play for me here. We'll have more on props, obviously, when we get to Monday night, but teasing this thing up for Chicago.
So I think that J.J. McCarthy long-term throughout the course of the season is going to have that quarterback whisper element from Kevin O'Connell. I do think that this is going to come out like he was handpicked. This is the guy that he wanted, that he believed in, all of those things. But right out the gates, week 1, after you just had a season-ending injury on the road in a tough environment, I just don't know if I can buy in on it. So if he has a slow start, if Caleb Williams is a little bit confused potentially with all that's been on his plate with Ben Johnson, if he is still holding on to the football too long, like we've seen how many times he had like the second most sacks in forever. Like what was the number? I wrote it down. Since 1963, the third most sacks of any quarterback in that time was 68 last year. And I know they upgraded the offensive line, Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman, but how quickly will that all come together? And when even with a clean pocket, he had the second lowest EPA in the NFL last year. Brian Flores led defense coming at you. So I like the under in this game. But maybe, as I mentioned, an in-game under 2, if the opening game scripts play out, they score, something like that. See what you can do.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and I was not watching Giannis Antetokounmpo highlights while you were talking.
You are the worst. Texans-Rams, this is another really interesting game that I do have a prop bet on, but let's start with the side in total where you sit on this one. The Rams laying 2.5, 3, mostly 3s I'm seeing here at home against the Texans team with a really good defense.
Sorry, I'm trying to find my game notes because I kind of agree with the market getting up to 3. I am not a pro-Texans guy, as we all know. I have not been shy about stating that fact. And I'm not exactly thrilled to run in and lay a key number with a team that's aging quarterback, is coming off of a training camp in which he was dealing with back issues all summer. So I think this is one where the boring answer for me is going to be, let's just sit back and watch this thing. If you get back down to 2.5, if that's going to be the consensus number, I think it makes a ton of sense if you want to tease the Texans up in what could be an ugly game. But your left tackle, Eric Jackson's going to play here for the Los Angeles Rams. He's a full participant in practice the other day. Matthew Stafford's not even on the injury report. The injury report's a little bit more, I will say, populated by the Houston Texans. Nothing really crazy, but I just don't think your offensive line is going to be great. I think this is a good Rams front seven and get after C.J. Stroud. I don't trust the running back situation. We talked about this yesterday with Kendall Valenzuela and just how noisy that all looks. Who's going to be your guy? I just think there's so many more questions for Houston, and I don't buy or understand the full-throated belief in this team when I see an offense that I don't trust in any way, shape, or form. So I at least get why the market's heading in this direction.
I have not made a side or total bet, but I did fire on Matthew Stafford under 32.5 pass attempts in this game.
Ooh.
So the thought process there, I mean, how
is that you're a hater?
I wouldn't say I'm a hater, but I don't have a ton of confidence in Matthew Stafford feeling awesome based on how little he was even able to practice. And maybe you might say week 1 of the season, it's the freshest that he's going to be. Sure. But this is a Texans defense that has potential to be elite this year, that is going to do their darndest to get after the quarterback and test that back as early as possible. So I could see Sean McVay dialing some stuff up to try to protect his quarterback a little bit, maybe run the ball a little bit more, or when you are getting the ball into the hands of your pass catchers, let Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua catch and run versus having a ton of volume in the pass game. So under 32.5 attempts is the way I see. I'm just like Will Anderson and Neil Hunter. They're going to be trying to come after this guy.
Or would the rebuttal be that you actually throw it way more and it's all just short shots within the line of scrimmage and getting your guys in space and working yards after catch? And in fact, the angle should be over pass attempts.
Is that what you're going to go with?
No, I was just trying to play devil's advocate.
No, I don't see that.
Okay.
I just think volume-wise, it's not going to be there as much. We'll see come game day, but that's kind of the way I'm throwing it. Good secondary for the Texans too. Derek Stingley leading that group. Like they just got a lot of stuff on that side of the ball.
No, and I should say that all of my lack of belief and trust in the Texans stems from that offense. I think C.J. Stroud is great. I just trust nothing around him at this point right now. And we've seen better defenses be held back record-wise by, even better, worse offenses, we'll say.
Okay, Jets Steelers, and I'm not just saying this because we had Brandon Cantu on the program earlier, but I have been talking myself in to the Steelers more and more You know that I did ultimately buy in on their season win total over. I think that this is going to work with Aaron Rodgers. And now that we're off that 3 into the 2.5 here, getting to lay the shorter number on the road against New York, what is that Jets offense going to be able to do against this really stout Steelers defense? I don't know. So I think I'm going to end up on the Steelers when all is said and done.
Put it in the spreadsheet. We're going to use it for our 5th pick. We need a 5th one still.
Maybe. Because I don't know as much about the Raiders as you do, and you're forcing my hand on this pick. I don't want to bet against the 49ers week 1, maybe I do go Steelers.
Back that up. What am I forcing your hand on anything?
No. I'm just saying, like, you're forcing my hand to make another pick me.
This is your selection.
That's what I'm saying. So this is my selection. So I'm not as confident in the Raiders as you are yet. I want to see it. So maybe I do go Steelers. But then I feel bad going against you because you already have a Jets +3 in pocket as a real bet.
Cares? It's one of many bets in the regular season.
It's the contest.
Yeah.
What do you think about that total, though? Because I'm looking more and more at the under.
Is it a 3?
38.5 for the total.
No, I mean for the contest line. It's 3, right, for the Steelers?
Yeah, it is the full 3 for the Steelers. So that makes a difference. It does.
So are we moving on the Raiders? I'm sorry. We're talking a lot in different circles.
What do you think about the total in the Jets Steelers game?
In fairness, Brian Ortega was also talking in my ear. Under.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. Even at the low total of 38.5, I would say that this is under. I don't think you really feel, and this is one of those, again, similar to Clemson, which my intuition led me down the right path for week 1 against LSU. Maybe it'll do the same thing here. I've kind of cooled on my thoughts on the Jets more as more of the offseason has gone on. You look at the loss of Elijah Vera-Tucker, what this offensive line could potentially look like against what is a very stout and formidable front 7. I think that there is a reality that occurs in which Justin Fields, who didn't look good in the preseason, is under pressure, forced to make those decisions while under pressure. He has not done well throughout his career under pressure. And any quarterback, I always give humans credit for this. Well, no quarterback does. No, you're right, but some are abhorrent in pressure, and some are actually just kind of bad. And you fall toward the negative end of the spectrum there with Fields if he's going to constantly have pressure in his face. So I would lean a little bit more toward, at the very least, not loving the side that I'm on with the Jets +3. It would not feel bad at all if you wanted to include the Steelers as part of our contest card.
Last 50 seconds here. Bengals, Browns. What's the official word on this game for you?
Bengals.
Just not even a question.
Let's do this thing.
I think so, too. I really do. Yet we're going down to 5.
I don't think Joe Flacco's good. I'm tired of this. I am tired of people telling me that they actually think Flacco's still a starting quarterback in this league right now. You didn't watch him. You did not watch him the last 2 years. You didn't.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation coming up next with Jeff Erickson of Rotowire, because he does have a bet in this game, actually make it dose, one of which requires Joe Flacco to do something pretty productive. So that's a tease, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. More Money Moves coming up after a quick timeout.
Watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are hitting the NFL hard today as Week 1 officially gets underway in just a couple of hours. Thursday Night Football. Cowboys, Eagles on deck as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Jeff Erickson joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, Rotowire betting analyst, senior editor. Really looking forward to talking through this game and more. But I actually want to start with the game we were discussing the last segment. Browns and Bengals going head-to-head. And to borrow a phrase from my co-host, if Joe Flacco doesn't have any haters, that means my man to my left is dead. He is very anti the Flacco train. Yet you like taking the points with the Browns in this game. Why?
Yeah, I do, and I like a lot of the individual props for the Browns as well. I mean, you look at Zach Taylor. This is a Zach Taylor thing. 1-11 in the first 2 games in his first 6 years in his career. That's one thing I really worry about quite a bit. I do like that the Bengals offensive players were playing in the first 2 preseason games, but the defense also played their starters and they look terrible. And I don't think they can stop the Browns. So I think this will be a closer game, divisional battle on the road. Keep in mind, I'm talking about this through orange and black glasses here. I'm a Bengals guy, actually, and so I'm a self-hating Bengals fan at this point in time. So I'm always a little nervous about that. I love David Njoku tomorrow in this game on Sunday here. The props on him are, I think, it opened at 46.5 receiving yards at DK. It's up to 50.5 now. But you can still find it at 47.5 at FanDuel at a decent price. So he's my number 4 tight end for fantasy purposes this week. Twice went over that number last year. He had his best year with Flacco 2 years ago. Really like this setup for him.
And to be clear, you still think this is playable over 48.5?
Oh, absolutely. I think this, the only thing that would change that was if some sort of monsoon would come in, but usually you see that later on in the year with Cleveland and the weather issues with those games. So that would be the one thing is that might change my opinion. But I think the Bengals offense is going to be pretty well oiled. I think they are going to put up a number, but I also think they're not going to be able to stop the Browns.
Yeah, we had talked about this potential over as well, just with the thought process that say what you want about Joe Flacco, but he's still going to be able to do some damage just because of how bad this Bengals defense truly is. And with Njoku specifically, 5-game sample size 2 years ago when they were together, but he was great in that connection. 390 yards, 4 touchdowns for Njoku in that time. Let's go to Thursday Night Football, though, coming up tonight. Cowboys and Eagles, as we mentioned, the defending Super Bowl champs playing host to a team that just lost their best player on defense, and Micah Parsons, to the Packers. What have you looked at from a prop and maybe side total angle that stood out to you?
Yeah, I've loved watching the movement on this one, how it's gone from 6.5 to 8.5 and how they got bet up so much there. We saw Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown miss practices a couple weeks ago, but they've been both fully cleared. Devonta Smith last time out went 8 for 120 against the Cowboys. The first game in that game last year was not as good for him. But I do like it, and it's a little bit. This is a bet against the Dallas secondary. I think the whole Dallas defense is predicated on the pass rush protecting a pretty shaky secondary. When they don't have that, you lose Micah Parsons. You see the with and without stats over the last 4 years with and without Parsons. You see that Dallas usually gives up quite a bit of passing yards. I think that's going to be the case tonight in this game. And I think Smith is kind of more of the achievable. Easier mark to hit here at 54.5 receiving yards. I know you like touchdowns in this one as well. So a couple different ways that you can approach this.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to add yards, though. If I need to add yards for Devonta Smith, I'll do it. But I do like his anytime touchdown at plus 185 available there. Let's see if we can get them both home, JVT.
Real quick, because I brought this angle up, and you guys are great at looking at these. For this game specifically tonight, I invoked the fact that Adoree Jackson was starting at that second corner spot. I was looking at some George Pickens stuff today. That dynamic with these two dudes, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, where do you think the needle lands there?
Yeah, I like that angle there. I have Pickens in a couple of fantasy leagues. I like the fact that he's a ball winner on the outside. I think it opens up everything else on the inside for Dallas there. Maybe not this week as much, although, again, Adoree Jackson isn't a bad angle. They're kind of going through some growing pains in that secondary with the Eagles as well. No Slay anymore there. They're having to change over some personnel. And I think that is one way to look at that there. I mean, and the fact is, they're without Nakobe Dean, and I know that's not necessarily going to kick in on the coverage, but it's just one more link in the chain you're pulling away there. You're really counting on, Adoree to really step up, or maybe even Keely Ringo to kind of step up a little bit more often there if they go to multiple DBs in some situations. I like that Pickens is probably going to always have single coverage on the outside. That's one of the things I like, that you're rarely going to see him bracketed. So for all the Pickens plays, all it takes is like 1 or 2 big plays for it to come home.
Yeah. Jeff Erickson, Rotowire betting analyst, senior editor, host of Rotowire Sports Today on SiriusXM Channel 87, joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. I want to talk CMC with you, back for San Francisco, apparently healthy. All the reports have that he is looking awesome. Not season long, but week 1. Is he a buy-on candidate for you?
Yeah, I like the 4.5 receptions for him because there's just, Marcus Goodwin's not walking through that door. J.J. Stokes is not walking through that door. They are just hurting for wide receiver help right now. Jawan Jennings, I don't know how much he's going to be able to play in this game. I think one of the things about the Brian Robinson trade was it allows them to put him in the backfield and have McCaffrey kind of isolate against the linebackers in the passing game a little bit more. I think you need to do this against Seattle. I think that Kittle and McCaffrey are going to get copious numbers of targets. I think McCaffrey in particular should be very active in the passing game. I don't necessarily think this is a high-scoring game, but I think McCaffrey's very active.
All right, let's go to Friday night, Brazil, Chargers, Chiefs, total here. And I'm curious, not only just the breakdown from a player standpoint, but also how you factored in the field, because last year it did not really look good.
Yeah, there's still a high-scoring game despite a terrible field, but it also wrecked the first half of the Packers season when Jordan Love got hurt. I really thought that was going to be a season ender. It was such a nasty field. I think they're going to take extra pains to make it a better field this year. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Two teams that are really familiar with each other. Last year, the Chiefs scored a combined 36 points, still won both of those games. I do think that you look at that from a standpoint there. You look at the Chiefs being without Rashee Rice. I know they want to go downfield more often. I know they want to be more wide open. I don't know if it necessarily happens here against the Chargers, what the Chargers are going to be able to dial up defensively against Mahomes. I still like the Chiefs side. Not like it's a big play or anything, but I do love the under on this one, 46.5. It didn't come close to it in either game last year. Mm-hmm. And you look at the Chargers personnel, and where are the playmakers? They really need Hampton to really step up from day one. They need to get anything out of Trey Harris. I'm not sure if they get that right away. I'm very cautious when it comes to the Chargers offense. Losing Rashawn Slater is a big blow to that team. I think all this is going to kind of keep this game in the muck, especially early on.
Yeah, 17-10, 19-17, the results in those Chiefs-Chargers games from a season ago. To go back to the Browns-Bengals here real quickly, we did just get an update from Mike Garafolo of NFL Network that Myles Garrett missed practice today with a hip injury, according to the team. No additional information that I'm seeing out there right now. But, hey, if you were already looking toward an over, if he's a little bit dinged up, that just helps your cause.
Oh, absolutely. And I wonder what that would do to the spread on this one here as well. Usually, defensive linemen don't move it that much, but it's Myles Garrett we're talking about here. Eventually it did happen in the Philly-Dallas game with Micah Parsons' absence, once they figured out that the skill position players were healthy for Philly. But I wouldn't be surprised if that moves a point.
All right, really quickly, before we get you out of here, any other angles in some of these games we haven't hit with you that are at least worth exploring for you from a player prop standpoint? I brought up the other day these two bad secondaries for the Dolphins and the Colts going at it. Anything like that you're looking at potentially for some of these other games on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with Daniel Jones and the pass catchers here. It's been pitched that, Josh Downs would really benefit by having a real quarterback. Does Daniel Jones actually qualify? I'm not quite so sure, but Anthony Richardson was so inaccurate last year. You saw a with and without difference with him last year when it came to Downs, to Pittman. I really want to see Tyler Warren's debut in that one there to see how much they use the tight end in that one as well. Was it an environmental thing for Jones, or can he have some sort of recovery? And are the Colts the right landing place? That's always a kind of a tricky one for me. I think that this is kind of like the throw things at the wall sort of game. Both teams, the Colts and Miami, have had so much negative news in the training camp and the preseason that I'm not quite sure what to expect from either of them.
Heard that. Jeff, thank you so much for the time today. We appreciate it. Good luck with your bets.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jeff Erickson, everybody, Rotowire. And just to recap again, is our video audience, you see that on your screen, that Bengals-Browns over 48.5, paired with David Njoku over 47.5 receiving yards in the Browns-Bengals game. Christian McCaffrey over 4.5 receptions, and then the under 46.5 in Chiefs and Chargers on Friday night in Brazil. Jeff Erickson's best bets there for us today. But to go back to the Colts of it all, I think I told you yesterday, I drafted Tyler Warren in my fantasy league. I got high hopes for this guy. I
think he'll have a ton of red zone targets. Their tight end position for many years has been an absolute just black hole. They've had nothing from it. Going back to, I think I can invoke this name. I don't think they've had a really good tight end since Jacob Tamme. Remember that one?
Ooh,
it's been a long time.
That's a deep cut, I would say. Okay. We need to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll have our best bets of the day. Because I will not be here tomorrow, I have to travel out to Starkville. I will give out my portfolio at least early. I know it's Thursday, but what I have in the NFL, some of my favorite college football plays, and more. Stick around. What with the face?
Just allegedly Starkville's in the middle of some desert.
It is
that nobody can get
hard to get to. I'm not kidding. It's like these small towns, man. Okay, we'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Okay, we've been heavy NFL today, and we will have some NFL best bets that we're going to give out in a moment, but I want to shift gears at least the first little bit here to
Eurobasket?
some college football, JVT. Although, why don't you tell people about Giannis? He's been lighting it up apparently this
Were you not impressed by that highlight I showed you?
It's not something I
don't understand.
It's not like that's something I haven't seen before from Giannis Antetokounmpo, except on an NBA court.
I just don't understand why this induces anger, that I'm enjoying something.
Because you're doing it in the middle of a show when we're trying to have a conversation. We're like talking about a game, and then you're like, oh, wait, what game are we talking about again? I got distracted by Eurobasket.
That's not true. I was distracted by Brian Ortega talking in my ear.
2 hours a day.
Right, it should be 3. But I got distracted.
So then I'd have another hour of you getting distracted by Eurobasketball? No, I'm good. The 2 hours is plenty.
Don't be mad because I'm actually doing my job.
Okay.
Getting
You're doing
ready
something.
Getting ready for the upcoming season.
You're doing something.
Have you watched any Euro hockey?
No.
Disappointing. I've been keeping up.
They don't even call it Euro hockey.
See? So you have been paying attention.
Problems. Let's get into some college football here because I will be out tomorrow. I'm making the trip to Starkville. I'll be on the sidelines Saturday afternoon for number 12 ranked Arizona State at Mississippi State. Should be a fun matchup. One that, by the way, Mississippi State getting a lot of play here. We're down from 9.5 at open with Arizona State being road favorites to now 6.5. And I keep on seeing more and more people liking that 6.5 with them. As far as some of the bets that I have been rolling with, I added Ole Miss -10 to the card at Kentucky. I know Kentucky does tend to get up for some of these big games with Mark Stoops as their head coach, covered in their last 6 against ranked opponents, and of course had the outright win against Ole Miss on the road last year. I think that streak ends on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. That loss last year held them out of a CFP spot, Ole Miss that is. And Kentucky at the time, like, their second worst team in the SEC last year. They have a lot of roster turnover, but don't figure to be markedly better. We talked about that with Alyssa Lang last week. Couldn't cover at home last week against Toledo. Don't have the same success running the football, I think, against an Ole Miss team either. And you've got a head coach in Lane Kiffin that if he has an opportunity late in this game to add another touchdown and build on that lead, he's going to take it. So -10, I feel good about at Kentucky. That was one I added to, we've talked about already this week. I am laying the points with Iowa State. I'm just more confident in them and Rocco Becht at home. And I know a lot of people think this is going to be a rock fight and that this game is always decided by a field goal. Take the dog. I just can't get there. I think Iowa State is just that much better. Kansas +6.5 at Missouri, we talked about. Another one I added to the portfolio here, Georgia Southern and USC over 60. We talked earlier this week about Jaden Mayava and the USC offense absolutely going off in their opener. And while, yes, it was against Missouri State, 73 points and 9 different players scoring 10 touchdowns is significant. And Mayava going 15 of 18 for just shy of 300 yards and 3 total touchdowns in the first half was notable to me. I see some people saying Clay Helton revenge and Georgia Southern's defense is going to be better than what USC saw last week. Sure, but how much better after they just gave up 42 to Fresno State? What are we talking about? So 60 felt like a good number, and this is one that's come down a few points with people taking. So I don't know. I feel like even where this is at 60, and I don't know if it's going to continue to go down, but I really like the under.
No, my lick of befuddlement is to the people who are allegedly saying Georgia Southern's going to be better defensively.
I've seen it all over the place, and it's driving me bonkers.
As you mentioned, E.J. Warner and the Fresno State Bulldogs ran up and down on them and dropped over 40. So, yeah, I don't really buy that too much.
Oh, and I didn't say SDSU money line as well. We talked a lot about that game against Washington State yesterday, but am I a homer or am I right?
No, I like this side too.
Okay.
I'm in.
Do you have any college football that you added, or are you going to save that for tomorrow?
You know what? No, I'll have more tomorrow, but I did take the dive today, and I'm going to test my theory. We went back and watched a little bit more of Central Michigan. I like that offense, man. A lot of unique-looking run sets for the Chips, and I think, again, given the situation for Pitt, looking ahead to West Virginia, those sort of things, that's going to be very tough for them. So I think – I'm sorry. I think that's going to be a good spot to take 22.5 with Central Michigan. So not on the graphic, but that was an ad this morning. As far as additions for the National Football League and things that I would like, because I know we're going to get into your plays for the NFL, I'll rattle through mine quickly. 2 teasers, Raiders +8.5, Broncos -2, and then Seahawks +8.5, Broncos -2. We talked about this strategy, kind of tying everything into Denver. You won't let me use the Broncos for Survivor. No, I'm just kidding. So I want to tie in that situation somehow, some way. So I'll use the Broncos on a teaser and times two different legs, Raiders and Seahawks, as well as We're going over 55.5 receiving yards for Pickens tonight. And I've got one more. Josh Downs over 44.5 receiving yards against the Miami Dolphins over the weekend. We talked to Kendall Valenzuela yesterday, and she brought up, the underrated aspect of Josh Downs. I'll take it a step further. He's their best receiver, period. And he is going to line up in the slot against a fifth-round rookie. And I don't think this is going to go well for the Miami Dolphins. So Josh Downs over 44.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, you liked the Broncos as your anchor leg, and I did use them in one of mine as well. I brought the Broncos and Eagles down and paired that together. I feel pretty confident Philly's going to win this game. I didn't like the 8.5 that we have available as the actual game spread, but bringing that down to 2.5, whatever that number is, sub the field goal, I feel good about. And then I also paired the Eagles with the Chargers, bringing that 3 up to 9. Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry. I did not mean to say,
no, you're good. And for anyone who missed it, by the way, when he made the joke about the Broncos, we have been going back and forth for a while about what we're going to do with Survivor. And
go back and forth.
We have decided that it's going to be the Arizona Cardinals, but I have been the one that's pushed for that more, and now I have anxiety because I know how much you like the Broncos, and you made a very, very good argument for it too. So now I'm very in my head about it.
And I'm just pushing that button.
Prayers up for your girl. I did have a Devonta Smith anytime touchdown today, plus 185 in the Thursday night game. Just seeing all the reports about him being such a featured guy. Maybe it worries me a little bit that everybody I talk to also likes Devonta Smith in some way, shape, or form today, but favorable matchup, it feels like, against the Cowboys secondary. Looking to Sunday, Bryce Young over 212.5 pass yards. And this number, shop around, by the way, this number's all over the place. I saw 218.5 somewhere else, but the 212.5 is the lowest number I saw in the market. Fired on it. Jags defense last season, dead last against the pass, giving up more than 257 a game. They had just 6 picks all last year, and I know they made a lot of changes on defense, but 3 new starters in the secondary could also lead to some communication issues. We saw Bryce Young really start to come to life the back end of last season, finding his game. Averaged 226 per game his last 7 starts, 14 total touchdowns, 3 picks. You add a new weapon in the receiving room with Teterow and McMillan as well. My only concern with this bet really is the offensive line. Ike Ekwonu just had that recent appendectomy. Will he play? If he does or doesn't, what does it look like? But I like the Carolina Panthers plus the 3.5 in this game, and I like Bryce Young. And then I mentioned earlier on the show as well, Matthew Stafford under 32.5 pass attempts against that elite Texans defense is going to try to get after him in that back injury early, and Vikings-Bears under on Monday night, but we'll talk more about that game later.
That's true. And I will say I did forget one more thing because my notes were a little disorganized here. Cowboys plus 8.5 tonight as well.
Oh, you did? You ended up going with it?
Yep. Let's go. I think they can stay inside of that number. It's funny, the banner night thing that we keep kind of bringing up, and the old school handicapping process would be like, you're distracted by banner night. Everybody's singing your praises, and now all of a sudden the banner's getting hung, and you're getting fat and happy. I don't really think there's much to that. I think this is more about testing out this secondary and an edge rusher group that I'm just not entirely too sure about yet for Philadelphia. So this is more, as I think all of week 1 is, it's just a bunch of testing theories. This is what I think about these teams. Let's just see if these come to fruition. And that is one of those things. You and I we share a somewhat highness of the Dallas Cowboys, or high opinion, I should say, if I'm going to speak proper English. So give me the Cowboys plus 8.5.
That was something I said last Friday, even when I came on briefly and just in reaction to the Micah Parsons news, because the 7.5 is still the win total for this team, but the juice is just on the other side. I still like the over 7.5. I just wish that I got the better number at this point now, with it being even money or better. But I feel confident still, big picture, that this Dallas Cowboys team, if they stay healthy and Dak is healthy, that they're going to be much better than last year. Their offense is going to be put to task to have to score a lot of points potentially with the way that things are changing on the defensive side of the ball, but I still like Dallas this year. G-Bank, by the way, as all of these bets, as always, are presented by G-Bank, is built with sports bettors in mind. Right now, you can earn $50 in cashback rewards once you're approved and your account is open with a G-Bank Visa signature card. Well, most credit cards treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances, even when it's your own money. G-Bank treats them as regular purchases. So no cash advance fees, saves you 3 to 5% on every deposit. You'll also earn 1% cash back on eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions, 2% cash back on everything else you buy. You can apply now at vsin.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. What do you guys have on deck for tomorrow? Anything you're excited about for the Friday show?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's a football Friday and like the first real one of the season, very much looking forward to it. Zach Cohen's going to be with us, so welcome back for him. He's been on, well, I think he's been writing, but for the shows, he's been on paternity leave for a while. But looking forward to really diving into the NFL, some more props. Not so much the offensive props, but a little angle on the defensive props and our market power ratings that we'll do every single week as well.
I am mentally preparing for more cowbell. I'm going to get all the cowbell on Saturday. As soon as I get off here, I'm going to head to my car and get on a coach's call with Kenny Dillingham for ASU, talk about all their expectations for the game with Mississippi State. I will, by the way, also be joining Tim Murray on Saturday for the VSiN College Football Tailgate Show to preview a little bit of that game, since I can't make it with you tomorrow.
Got time for him, huh? Yeah.
Follow the money coming up after this. Great show on deck, by the way. Paul Charchian shares his top plays, and Phil Hellmuth, poker legend, coming up with the guys.